Have you ever felt that pang of anxiety when you wait for her message and it never comes? You text, you hope, and yet silence. It's exhausting, isn't it? But let me tell you something. The moment she never texts you first is the exact moment you have an opportunity to reclaim your power, your confidence, and your clarity. This isn't about manipulation. This is about self-respect, emotional intelligence, and knowing your worth in a world where attention is currency. Today, I'll break down exactly what to do when she never reaches out first and how you can transform that waiting game into a game of self-mastery, attraction, and unwavering confidence. By the end of this talk, you'll understand that the true power doesn't lie in her messages. It lies in how you respond, how you grow, and how you elevate your own life while others remain reactive to you. Let's dive into it and let's unlock your inner strength. Stop chasing what doesn't chase you and redirect your energy to self-growth. This is the cornerstone of emotional freedom and true confidence. Many people fall into the trap of measuring their self-worth by the attention they receive from others, especially in relationships or potential connections. When she never texts you first, it's easy to spiral into overthinking, insecurity, and endless attempts to get her attention. But here's the reality: your value is not determined by someone else's actions, messages, or interest. It's determined by how much you invest in yourself, your growth, and your vision for your life. Imagine you are planting a garden. You can't control whether the bees come to a specific flower or linger on another, but you can ensure that your garden is vibrant, flourishing, and captivating in its own right. The moment you stop obsessing over her lack of initiation, you can start tending to your own garden. That means setting personal goals, improving your health, refining your skills, and cultivating experiences that make your life rich and meaningful. Every hour you spend waiting, worrying, or second-guessing her intentions is an hour you could spend building something permanent and powerful in your own life. Think of the difference between chasing someone who is unavailable and building something that attracts the right people effortlessly. One is exhausting, the other is magnetic. You must understand that redirecting your energy isn't just a passive act. It's an active declaration of your priorities. It's saying, my life is too valuable to be defined by someone else's inconsistencies. People who are constantly chasing attention are never in control of their emotions. Their happiness fluctuates with every text notification, like a pendulum swinging with each unread message. But when you shift your focus inward, you become the master of your own emotional landscape. You begin to enjoy life without needing validation. And this self-sufficiency is magnetic. Confidence, after all, is not about pretending not to care. It's about genuinely knowing that your life has value independent of anyone else's participation. Self-growth also provides clarity. When you're investing in yourself, your mind becomes sharper, your priorities clearer, and your emotional intelligence stronger. You start to see patterns in behavior, not as a source of pain, but as a source of understanding. You notice who aligns with your values and who doesn't, and you stop wasting energy on interactions that don't serve your growth. This mindset transforms rejection or lack of attention into data, not devastation. Every moment she doesn't text you first is an opportunity to ask yourself, what am I creating? How am I expanding my life? These questions shift your focus from scarcity to abundance. You realize that your life is filled with potential, a potential that is independent of her engagement. Additionally, redirecting your energy allows you to build a life so compelling that it naturally draws the right people toward you. Instead of chasing, you become magnetic. You start to attract attention, interest, and respect effortlessly because you are no longer operating from a place of neediness or desperation. Every action you take, every skill you develop, and every boundary you set reinforces your self-worth. You're sending a message without words. I am whole, I am capable, I am enough. This is far more powerful than any message you could send trying to provoke a response. The key here is consistency. It's not about a single day of self-improvement or a momentary distraction from waiting. It's a long-term commitment to cultivating yourself. Every day, ask yourself, am I growing? Am I becoming more valuable, skilled, and confident? When the answer is yes, you have transformed her lack of text into fuel for your personal evolution. Chasing someone who doesn't chase you creates a cycle of disappointment and frustration. Redirecting that energy creates momentum, fulfillment, and self-respect. This shift not only impacts your love life, but every aspect of your existence: career, friendships, health, and personal satisfaction. You are no longer defined by external validation. You are defined by the relentless pursuit of becoming your best self, and that is a power that no one can take away from you. Create an unshakable mindset that doesn't rely on her attention. This is where true power begins, because your mind is the control center of your reality. And if it's dependent on someone else's actions, you will always feel vulnerable, anxious, and reactive. Many people make the mistake of believing that a relationship, a message, or a sign of interest defines their happiness or worth. When she never texts you first, your brain can spiral into doubts. Does she like me? Am I too much or too little? Should I text again? These thoughts are natural, but they are a trap if left unchecked. An unshakable mindset is built by consciously recognizing that your value is intrinsic, not borrowed borrowed from external validation. You must practice mental resilience daily. This means observing your thoughts without letting them dictate your emotions. When the impulse to check your phone arises, pause and remind yourself that your energy is finite and you get to choose what to invest it. The mind is like a muscle, and just like any muscle, it grows stronger with consistent training. Each time you resist the urge to chase attention and instead focus on your goals, your mindset grows more resilient. You begin to realize that emotional stability is not something that happens to you. It is something you cultivate. This mindset also requires a deep understanding of perspective. When she doesn't initiate contact, it doesn't automatically reflect rejection or lack of interest. It simply reflects her priorities, circumstances, or mindset. Accepting this without judgment frees you from overanalyzing, over-explaining, or overcomplicating your interactions. You begin to see the world more clearly, understanding that each person is responsible for their own actions, just as you are responsible for yours. Building this kind of mindset also involves replacing fear-based thinking with curiosity and purpose-driven focus. Instead of asking, why didn't she text me? You start asking, how can I elevate myself today? Or what can I create that brings me joy and progress? This shift turns anxiety into action, scarcity into abundance. Your self-esteem becomes rooted in achievement, growth, and self-respect, not in the timing of someone else's text messages. Visualization and affirmation are powerful tools in this process. Spend time imagining the life you want, the confidence you embody, and the emotional independence you are developing. Affirmations like, I am complete without anyone's validation, or my worth is inherent and unshakable, rewire your subconscious to reject dependency on others for happiness. The more you internalize these truths, the less reactive you become to external triggers, including unreturned messages or silence. Part of creating an unshakable mindset is also learning to embrace discomfort. Waiting without control, uncertainty, and unpredictability are uncomfortable experiences, but they are also opportunities to strengthen your mental resilience. Instead of fleeing or overcompensating, you sit with the discomfort, observe it, and respond intentionally rather than impulsively. This teaches you emotional mastery and helps you remain calm under circumstances that would otherwise trigger insecurity or neediness. Over time, this mindset shifts the entire dynamic. When you are steady, confident, and independent, you naturally communicate a sense of self-possession that is magnetic. You no longer operate from scarcity, but from abundance, meaning that your attention, effort, and energy become valuable, not disposable. People are naturally drawn to those who are whole, self-assured, and emotionally autonomous. This doesn't mean shutting down or becoming cold. It means prioritizing yourself while still being open, kind, and present. It is the balance between warmth and independence that creates deep respect and attraction. An unshakable mindset also requires detachment from outcomes. You do what aligns with your values and your growth, not in hopes of a specific reaction or response. This freedom allows you to take calculated risks, express yourself authentically, and maintain dignity even when expectations are unmet. Each time she doesn't text first, it becomes a test not of her interest, but of your emotional fortitude. You start to see these moments as opportunities to strengthen your self-control, reinforce your boundaries, and practice patience with yourself and others. The mind that is unshakable does not crumble in silence, confusion, or waiting. It thrives. It converts moments of uncertainty into opportunities for clarity, for insight, and for personal evolution. Your inner dialogue shifts from worry and doubt to affirmation and action. You no longer chase external validation, but instead design a life that naturally commands respect, attention, and attraction without forcing or begging for it. Understand the psychology behind why she isn't initiating contact. This is where awareness becomes power, because the moment you start seeing human behavior clearly, you stop taking things personally and start responding strategically. When someone doesn't text you first, it's rarely a simple reflection of your worth or your appeal. It is a reflection of priorities, habits, emotional state, and sometimes even unconscious patterns. Most people react emotionally to silence, interpreting it as rejection or disinterest. But in reality, it is often neutral. It just is what it is. To understand her behavior, you need to observe without judgment and interpret without assumptions. People communicate in multiple ways, and text messages are just one channel. Some people simply do not initiate communication because they are accustomed to receiving attention rather than giving it. Others may have busy lives, emotional distractions, or fears of overstepping boundaries. Some may enjoy the sense of control that comes from being pursued. None of these reasons reflect negatively on your value. They reflect her patterns, her conditioning, and her psychology. Understanding allows you to detach from emotional reactions and respond from a place of clarity and strategy. When you see silence as data rather than drama, you gain insight into both the other person and yourself. You notice patterns, how often she responds, what topics prompt engagement, what her timing indicates, and you use this insight not to manipulate, but to make informed decisions about where to invest your energy. This psychological understanding also allows you to protect your emotional state. When you know that her lack of initiation is not about you personally, you stop internalizing it as a reflection of your worth. This shift alone dramatically reduces anxiety and overthinking. Instead of constantly asking, does she like me? Or am I doing something wrong? You start asking, what does this pattern reveal about her behavior? And how can I maintain my confidence and integrity while interacting with her? Understanding psychology also teaches patience. Many people rush to conclusions, send repeated messages, or try to force a reaction. This desperation is counterproductive because it signals insecurity rather than confidence. When you grasp the underlying reasons for her inaction, you naturally develop patience and choose actions that elevate your position rather than diminish it. Another key point is understanding reciprocity in relationships. Humans tend to mirror the energy and attention they receive. If she isn't initiating, it often means she is either comfortable receiving or has not yet felt the full value of engaging actively. Recognizing this gives you the power to create situations where engagement feels natural rather than coerced. You focus on creating value in your interactions, bringing energy, excitement, and authenticity without bending yourself to force responses. Psychology also explains the power of scarcity and autonomy. When someone doesn't initiate, it often triggers curiosity and interest. When you maintain your independence and high standards, people are attracted to those who are self-sufficient, confident, and unpredictable in a positive way. Understanding this allows you to step back, create space, and watch how dynamics shift naturally without forcing any behavior. This approach aligns with the laws of human behavior. People respond to energy, emotion, and presence rather than to pressure, guilt, or over-attention. By understanding why she isn't texting first, you shift from reactive to proactive. You learn to communicate strategically, show value through actions rather than words, and maintain boundaries that protect your emotional state. You also cultivate awareness of timing, frequency, and relevance of engagement. Every interaction becomes purposeful and aligned with your goals rather than an attempt to fill a void or quiet anxiety. Finally, understanding psychology gives you emotional clarity. You stop interpreting every silence as rejection, every delay as disinterest, and every casual message as obligation. You start to see patterns, predict behaviors, and respond with wisdom. You recognize that her actions are not about you needing approval, but about her own habits. And Myron said, this insight allows you to remain grounded, confident, and magnetic, turning potential frustration into strategic advantage. Set boundaries that naturally increase respect and attraction. This is one of the most powerful tools you can use because people always respond to how you allow them to treat you. When she never texts you first, it can feel like you are constantly giving without receiving, which slowly erodes confidence and creates imbalance. Boundaries are not about punishment or control. They are about clarity, self-respect, and demonstrating that your time, energy, and attention are valuable. Setting boundaries begins with awareness, knowing what you are willing to accept and what you are not. If you notice that you are always initiating contact, constantly waiting for a reply, or feeling anxious when she doesn't text, it is a signal that your boundaries are not clearly defined. Clear boundaries protect your emotional state and prevent patterns of neediness and over-investment from forming. When you establish limits, you communicate without words that you have self-respect and that your presence is not something to be taken for granted. This naturally increases attraction because people are drawn to those who have structure, self-possession, and a sense of worth. Without boundaries, interactions can become chaotic and draining, often leading to frustration and resentment. With boundaries, every interaction is intentional, aligned, and meaningful. One key aspect of setting boundaries is controlling your availability. If she never texts first, you don't need to fill the silence with repeated messages or constant check-ins. By limiting your availability, you signal that your life is full, rich, and independent of her engagement. This doesn't mean ignoring her out of spite. It means maintaining your equilibrium and prioritizing yourself first. Boundaries also involve emotional regulation. You stop reacting impulsively to her silence or delays and instead respond with calm, composed, and confident energy. Emotional stability communicates strength and reliability, which is far more attractive than desperation or neediness. Another important part of boundaries is communication. Express your expectations and limits subtly and confidently. You don't have to demand attention or force engagement. Instead, you model the behavior you desire by showing respect for your own time, consistency in your actions, and clarity in your intentions. This modeling naturally encourages her to mirror your energy rather than dictate it. Boundaries also include understanding your own triggers and responses. Notice when her lack of texting triggers anxiety, frustration, or overthinking. These moments are not weaknesses. They are signals to reinforce your boundaries and redirect focus to your growth and priorities. Over time, this strengthens both your emotional resilience and your social intelligence. People who maintain healthy boundaries are also more likely to be respected because they do not tolerate manipulation, inconsistency, or low-value interactions. You create an environment where mutual respect is the norm and where your presence is appreciated rather than taken for granted. Attraction is closely linked to perception of value, and boundaries enhance perceived value by demonstrating that you are selective, discerning, and self-aware. Another aspect is balancing availability with challenge. You do not overextend yourself to fill gaps in communication. Instead, you create subtle tension and curiosity by being fully engaged in your own life. This creates intrigue, draws attention naturally, and allows her to step forward if she wants to engage. Boundaries are also cumulative. Every time you enforce them with consistency, your internal sense of control grows and your external interactions improve. You stop falling into cycles of chasing, over-explaining, or apologizing for your presence. You maintain dignity and project strength without arrogance. Finally, boundaries transform the dynamic entirely. They shift the energy from imbalance to mutual respect, from insecurity to confidence, and from neediness to attraction. When applied correctly, you no longer feel compelled to initiate constantly or seek validation through text. Instead, you operate from a space of empowerment where your interactions are intentional, your energy protected, and your presence magnetic. And you notice that others respond naturally to the strength, clarity, and integrity you consistently project. Use strategic communication to shift dynamics without desperation. This is where emotional intelligence meets action, because how you communicate determines the energy and outcomes of any interaction. Many people make the mistake of reacting impulsively when she never texts first, flooding her with messages, over-explaining themselves, or trying to force a response. This behavior signals neediness, lowers perceived value, and pushes attraction away instead of drawing it closer. Strategic communication is the opposite of that. It's about controlling your energy, maintaining composure, and sending the right messages in a way that subtly influences dynamics while protecting your emotional state. First, you must understand the timing of your communication. When you reach out, it should not come from a place of scarcity or desperation, but from intention and alignment with your priorities. The goal is not to make her chase you, but to communicate in a way that demonstrates your value, independence, and emotional stability. When you message thoughtfully with confidence and purpose, every word becomes a reflection of your self-respect. Strategic communication also involves content, what you say, how you say it, and why you say it. Avoid long, apologetic messages or oversharing emotions early on. Instead, communicate with clarity, positivity, and energy that is engaging but not needy. Use language that sparks curiosity, encourages natural engagement, and positions you as someone who has a full life and is selective with attention. This approach makes interactions more magnetic because you're not competing for her time. You are presenting yourself as a desirable presence whose attention is valuable. Another element is response control. How you reply, how quickly you respond, and the energy you bring into the conversation will influence perception. Responding too quickly or excessively can signal over eagerness, while waiting deliberately to respond with thoughtfulness conveys self-possession. The key is balance, being responsive without being reactive, interested without being desperate. Strategic communication also requires awareness of non-verbal cues and tone. Even in texting, tone matters. Short, confident messages often have a stronger impact than long explanations. Humor, wit, and lightheartedness create engagement, while excessive seriousness or emotional vulnerability too early can create imbalance. You also use scarcity as a tool, not manipulation, but alignment. By not always being instantly available, you naturally elevate perceived value. People respond to energy more than words, so when you communicate from a stable, confident, and fulfilled state, you influence her perception without pressuring her. Another aspect is framing interactions around shared value and experiences rather than need. Invite conversations, suggest plans, or share thoughts that are meaningful and relevant instead of seeking validation or reassurance. This approach positions you as someone who contributes positively to interactions rather than who takes energy without giving it back. Strategic communication also includes emotional restraint. You maintain calm regardless of her patterns, never allowing silence or delayed responses to trigger insecurity. You observe, adapt, and act with intention, which projects strength and reliability. Over time, this creates a dynamic where she notices your consistency, independence, and composed energy, and it naturally encourages her to match it. It's about creating an environment where attraction is drawn to your stability and value rather than being caused through neediness. Every message you send, every interaction you initiate is intentional and aligned with your personal standards. You communicate from a place of empowerment, not from a place of scarcity or fear. This strategic approach also allows for experimentation and feedback. You test timing, content, and tone to see what creates engagement without compromising self-respect. Through observation, you refine your communication style, making it more effective, magnetic, and aligned with your values. Ultimately, strategic communication shifts the entire relationship dynamic. It stops you from being reactive, chasing, or anxious, and plays it with confidence, control, and attraction. When applied consistently, it creates a cycle where your energy is respected, your value is recognized, and interactions become mutually engaging and balanced.